My daughter, open the door. It is me, your father. I have finally come home to be with you after all this time away from here.
Long ago, in the heart of Africa, where the golden sun kissed the rooftops of mud houses, and giant baobab trees stood like silent guardians of the land, there lived a young girl named Amara. Her village was called Ndlovu, a peaceful place surrounded by green forests, winding rivers, and endless fields of millet. During the rainy season, the earth was rich and generous. Birds filled the skies with songs. Children laughed as they chased goats through dusty paths. And every evening the sound of talking drums echoed across the valley. But that year changed. The rains did not come. The river that once danced across the land became a thin stream of muddy water. The farms dried up under the scorching sun. Crops withered before they could grow, and hunger slowly found its way into every home. For many families, every meal became a treasure. No one suffered more than Amara, yet she carried responsibilities far beyond her age. Her father had disappeared years before while traveling to trade in a distant kingdom, and no one ever saw him again. Her mother had become weak from illness, leaving Amara to gather firewood, fetch water, and search for anything edible each day. Despite their hardships, her mother always reminded her of one simple truth. "Child," she would whisper, "a heart that stays kind during hard times shines brighter than gold." Amara never forgot those words. Every morning before sunrise, she walked deep into the forest looking for wild fruits, herbs, or roots that could become a meal. Most days, she returned with almost nothing. Still, she smiled. Still, she greeted everyone she met. Still, she thanked the Creator for another day. The villagers often wondered how someone with so little could still be so cheerful. One afternoon, after hours of searching, Amara found only a handful of millet grains hidden inside an old clay jar beneath their sleeping mat. It was barely enough. She carefully washed the grains before grinding them into flour using a smooth stone. Then she mixed the flour with water inside a small black cooking pot and stirred it slowly over a tiny fire. The smell of warm porridge filled their little hut. It was not much. Juste un épaule. One single bowl that would have to feed both Amara and her sick mother. As the porridge cooled, Amara smiled. "Mother," she said softly, "today we shall eat together." Her mother smiled weakly. "You eat first, my child." "No," Amara replied. Outside, the wind began to blow. The leaves on the baobab tree rustled strangely. The village dogs suddenly stopped barking. Even the birds became silent. An unusual stillness settled over Ndlovu. Then came a knock. Amara frowned. No one visited hungry families during famine. She slowly opened the wooden door. Standing there was an old traveler, unlike anyone she had ever seen. His clothes were covered with dust from many long journeys. His walking stick was carved with symbols she did not recognize. His sandals were worn thin. His beard was as white as clouds drifting across the mountains. Yet his eyes shone with a strange warmth, as though they carried the light of countless sunsets. The old man smiled gently. "My child," he said, "I have walked for many days. My feet are tired. My stomach is empty. May I have something to eat?" Amara froze. She looked behind her. The pot held only one bowl. Un bol. The last food they had. If she gave it away, she and her mother would sleep hungry. If she refused, no one would blame her. After all, everyone in the village was struggling. The old traveler seemed to understand the battle taking place inside her heart. "I ask only if you are willing," he said quietly. "I will leave with peace either way." Amara lowered her head. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "A heart that stays kind during hard times shines brighter than gold." Slowly, she lifted the clay ball. Her hands trembled. She carried it outside. "This is all we have," she admitted. "But hunger hurts everyone the same. If this meal can give you strength to continue your journey, then please, te accueille." The old traveler stared at her in silence. For several moments, He did not move. Then a gentle smile spread across his face. You know, he said softly, many people become generous after they become rich. But only a few remain generous while they are poor. He accepted the bowl with both hands. Before eating, he looked toward the sky and whispered words in a language Amara had never heard. A cool breeze suddenly swept through the village. The leaves of the baobab tree shimmered. Some villagers looked outside, wondering why the hot afternoon had suddenly become cool. The traveler finished every drop of porridge. He returned the empty bowl. Thank you, he said. I have no coins to give you. I have no cattle. I own no land. But remember this night. When the moon reaches its highest place, do not leave your home. No matter what you hear, do not open your door. Amara blinked. Before she could ask another question, the old traveler turned and slowly walked away. Within seconds, he disappeared into the dusty road. It was impossible. The road stretched for miles without anywhere to hide. Yet the old man was simply gone. Amara stood frozen. The evening sun slipped below the horizon. Darkness slowly covered the village. Inside the hut, she and her mother drank only water before lying down to sleep with empty stomachs. Outside, the wind began to howl. Then, somewhere deep inside the forest, a single drumbeat echoed through the night. Amara's eyes flew open. The old traveler's warning echoed inside her mind. Do not leave your home. But then she heard something else. A frightened child crying for help outside. Je sat up. Her heart pounded. Was someone in danger? Or was something else waiting beyond the door? Amara sat upright on her sleeping mat, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it over the wind outside. Again, the cry came. Help. Somebody, please help. It sounded like a little girl. The voice trembled with fear, as though its owner had wandered alone into the darkness. Amara instinctively reached for the wooden door. Then she remembered the old traveler's warning. When the moon reaches its highest place, do not leave your home, no matter what you hear. Do not open your door. Chevreau. Her hand rested on the rough wooden handle. Outside, the crying grew louder. Please. Ik s'enterme lost. Inside the hut, her mother slowly opened her eyes. Do not open it, she whispered. But mother, Amara replied softly. Someone may be in danger. Her mother shook her head. I have lived many seasons. There are voices in the night that do not belong to children. A chill ran through Amara's body. The wind circled the hut, carrying whispers that seemed to come from every direction at once. The roof creaked. The fire in the corner flickered blue for a brief moment before returning to its normal orange glow. Then came another sound. Knock. Someone or something was at the door. The knocking was slow and deliberate. Amara held her breath. The stranger's warning echoed in her mind once more. Outside, the voice changed. Instead of a frightened child, it now sounded like an old woman. My daughter, open the door. I am cold. I have nowhere to sleep. Amara's eyes widened. A moment later, the voice changed again. This time, it sounded exactly like her father.
My daughter, open the door. It is me, your father. I have finally come home to be with you after all this time away from here.
Tears filled her eyes. For years, she had dreamed of hearing those words. Her body wanted to run to the door. But something deep inside her heart told her that this was not her father. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer. I will not open the door. The knocking stopped instantly. Silence filled the hut. Then, without warning, a loud scream echoed through the entire village. Dogs barked wildly. Goats cried out in panic. Roosters crowed, although it was still the middle of the night. People shouted from their homes, but no one dared step outside. Just as suddenly as it had begun, everything became quiet. The rest of the night passed in silence. When dawn finally arrived, golden sunlight spilled across the village. The air felt fresh. The wind was calm. As Amara stepped outside, she noticed something unusual. Every hut had strange footprints leading toward the forest. Not human footprints. Not animal footprints. Each print had three long toes, enormous, and glowed faintly before disappearing into the dust. The villagers gathered in the center of Ndlovu, whispering nervously. The spirits walked among us. No, it was the forest keeper. Someone has angered the ancestors. Everyone had a different explanation. Even the village chief looked troubled. An elderly woman suddenly stepped forward. She was known as Grandmother Nia, the oldest person in the village. Her white hair was wrapped neatly beneath a colorful cloth. And although her back was bent with age, her eyes were bright with wisdom. She slowly examined the strange footprints. Then she smiled. "This is not a sign of punishment," she said. "It is a sign that someone among us has shown extraordinary kindness." The villagers looked at one another in confusion. Grandmother Nia continued. "Long before any of us were born, our ancestors spoke of a mysterious traveler. They said he wandered from village to village disguised as a poor old man. He asked only for food. Those who chased him away lost more than they knew. But those who shared what little they had received blessings that could never be stolen." A murmur spread through the crowd. "Who fed the traveler?" Nobody answered. Amara lowered her head. She had not shared her meal to earn praise. She simply believed it was the right thing to do. But one pair of eyes had been watching her. Kato was the wealthiest farmer in the village. His granaries were still half full despite the famine. He owned many goats, several cattle, and fields larger than anyone else's. Yet, he was also known for being selfish. When hungry children came asking for food, he sent them away. When widows needed help, he refused. He had seen the old traveler arrive the previous evening. He had watched from his doorway as the old man begged from house to house. Every family turned him away. Some claimed they had nothing. Others simply shut their doors. Finally, Kato saw the traveler enter Amara's small hut. Now, he understood. It was her, he shouted. The poor girl gave him food. The crowd turned toward Amara. Some smiled. Others looked jealous. Kato folded his arms. "So now, we know why strange things happened last night. If anything bad comes to this village, it will be because she invited spirits among us." The villagers began whispering again. Amara felt her cheeks grow warm. She had only tried to help. Had she done something wrong? Before anyone could answer, a young boy came running from the edge of the village. He was breathless. "The river. Eshuted. Come quickly." Everyone rushed after him. When they reached the riverbank, they stopped in amazement. The river, which had nearly dried up for months, was flowing again. Clear water sparkled beneath the morning sun. Fish leaped joyfully through the current. Children laughed as they dipped their feet into the cool water. Women filled their clay pots with fresh water. Men stared in disbelief. No one could explain it. Grandmother Nia quietly smiled. The earth remembers kindness. For the first time in many months, hope returned to Ndlovu. But Kato was not pleased. He watched as everyone celebrated. Instead of feeling grateful, he felt something darker. Envie. If that old traveler truly carries blessings, he muttered to himself, then I will find him. I deserve far greater rewards than a poor girl. That very afternoon, without telling anyone, Cato packed food, filled a leather water bag, and set off toward the forest, determined to find the mysterious traveler. He believed he could trick the old man into giving him riches. He had no idea that the forest was listening, and not everyone who entered it ever found their way back. The news of the river's return spread beyond Ndlovu. Travelers passing through the village could hardly believe their eyes. Only a day earlier, the riverbed had been cracked and dry. Now, clear water flowed gently between its banks, as though the drought had never touched it. People called it a miracle. Some praised the ancestors. Others thanked the Creator. But Grandmother Nia remained quiet. She knew that not every miracle revealed its full meaning at once. Meanwhile, Cato marched deeper into the forest with confidence. Over his shoulder hung a leather bag filled with roasted meat, sweet yams, fresh fruit, and enough water to last several days. If that old man is truly magical, he muttered, he will reward the richest gift with the greatest treasure. He smiled to himself. He had no intention of sharing out of kindness. Everything he carried was part of a bargain he hoped to make. The deeper he walked, the stranger the forest became. The trees grew taller. The air became cooler. Golden butterflies drifted silently through the leaves. Birds watched him without singing. It felt as though the forest itself were studying every step he took. Hours passed before he finally saw someone sitting beneath a great baobab tree. It was an old woman. Her clothes were torn. Her hands trembled. She looked weak with hunger. "My son," she said softly, "I have not eaten in 2 days. Would you spare a little food?" "Qu'attends-tu?" "This food is not for beggars. It is for someone important, without unforgettable." As he disappeared down the path, the old woman slowly smiled. Then, before anyone could have seen it, she vanished like morning mist beneath the rising sun. Far away in Ndlovu, Amara spent the morning helping her neighbors carry water from the restored river. Although she still had little, she never hesitated to help others. An elderly man struggled with a heavy bundle of firewood. She carried it for him. A small child fell while chasing a goat. She comforted him. A widow needed water for cooking. Amara filled her clay pot before filling her own. By sunset, she was exhausted, yet her heart felt light. That evening, Grandmother Nia came to visit. She sat quietly beside Amara outside the hut. "The old traveler chose your home for a reason," the elder said. Amara lowered her eyes. "I am not special." Grandmother Nia smiled. The truly kind rarely believe they are. She reached into a woven basket and removed a small object wrapped in cloth. Inside lay a smooth stone unlike any Amara had ever seen. It shimmered with faint golden patterns. "This has been passed down through generations," Grandmother Nia explained. "It is called the Stone of Truth. It shines only for those whose hearts remain pure." Amara accepted it carefully. The stone felt warm in her hands. "Tomorrow," Grandmother Nia continued, "follow the eastern path into the forest. There is someone waiting for you." Before Amara could ask another question, the old woman stood and slowly disappeared into the gathering darkness. That night Amara slept peacefully. At sunrise, she kissed her mother's forehead. "I'll return before sunset," she promised. Her mother smiled gently. "Walk with courage. Kindness has already become your companion." Amara followed the narrow path leading into the forest. At first, everything seemed ordinary. Monkeys swung through the trees. Bright birds flew overhead. Gentle streams crossed her path. But after several hours, the forest grew strangely quiet. Even the wind stopped. Then she heard a cry. Not a frightening cry like the one from the night before, She hurried toward the sound. Near a fallen tree lay a wounded antelope. Its leg had become trapped beneath a heavy branch. The frightened animal struggled helplessly. Amara looked around. No predator. Only the frightened creature. She knew she could continue walking. After all, Grandmother Nia had said someone was waiting. But she could not ignore suffering. With all her strength, she pushed against the heavy branch. It barely moved. She tried again. Sweat rolled down her face. Her arms shook. Finally, with one last effort, the branch rolled aside. The antelope slowly stood. It looked at Amara with gentle eyes. For a brief moment, its eyes seemed almost human. Then it bowed its head before disappearing into the forest. Amara smiled and continued walking. Not long afterward, she found a little boy sitting alone beside a stream. Ewa crie. I cannot find my family, he sobbed. Yam lost. Amara sat beside him. Do not be afraid. She offered him the last piece of roasted cassava she had brought for herself. You must eat. But then you'll have nothing, the boy said. Shus my lib. You need it more than I do. The boy accepted the food gratefully. After he finished eating, he pointed toward a narrow path. My mother went that way. Amara held his hand. Together, they followed the trail until they found a worried couple searching desperately for their son. The mother embraced her child with tears of joy. You have saved our family, she said. Before Amara could answer, the family disappeared behind the trees. She blinked in surprise. The path was empty. There were no footprints. A strange feeling settled over her. It was as though the forest itself had been testing her. As the sun began to sink lower, Amara reached a beautiful clearing. At its center stood the largest baobab tree she had ever seen. Its trunk was so wide that 20 people, holding hands, could barely surround it. Golden leaves shimmered despite the season. Soft light seemed to flow from its branches. Standing beneath the tree was the old traveler. He looked exactly as he had the day before. The same dusty clothes, the same walking stick, the same gentle smile. I was wondering when you would arrive, he said. Amara bowed respectfully. I came because Grandmother Nia sent me. The traveler nodded. She knew the time had come. The kindness you showed was not seen only by me. It was seen by every living thing. Amara looked around in confusion. I do not understand. The traveler gently tapped his walking stick against the ground. At once, the forest began to glow. The wounded antelope stepped out from behind the trees. The little boy and his parents appeared. The old hungry woman Kato had ignored emerged from the shadows. Even colorful birds and forest animals gathered silently around the clearing. One by one, their appearances began to change. The antelope became a graceful young woman dressed in shining white cloth. The little boy became a smiling young prince. His parents transformed into a king and queen. The hungry old woman became radiant and strong. Light surrounded them all. The old traveler smiled. Mishield, you have not been helping strangers. You have been helping the guardians of the living forest.